Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippy. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Welcome back to the Yes Show, Wise Pineapples. Today, we have a truly special guest, someone that I've known for over 20 years. In fact, this guest was once our neighbor, played in a band with my husband, and their daughter even babysat our kiddos. For the last 2 decades, I have known her by her birth name. But today, we are joined by the incredibly brave and inspiring Lola Sophia. Lola is here to share her journey of transition from male to female, and we're diving into some of the important conversations about how we can create a more inclusive experiences for our transgender team members and our guests and the people in our lives that we know. This is going to be an eye-opening and heartfelt episode, so stick around as we learn, grow, and say yes to creating a more inclusive world together. And side note, before we begin this conversation, I think it's really important to acknowledge a couple of things. First, many in the LGBTQ plus community, especially transgender individuals, often feel it's not their responsibility to educate others about identity or experiences. And that's completely understandable. They're simply living their lives and they shouldn't have to explain or justify themselves. At the same time, I know there are people like myself who truly want to be inclusive and supportive, but they're afraid of saying the wrong thing or unintentionally offending someone. This fear can sometimes keep us from asking the questions that we need to know or taking the steps to connect, especially in the workplace. A lack of understanding can lead to unintentional exclusions, and I believe that's something that we can all work on together. That's why I really wanted to have this conversation because it's not just about understanding someone's personal journey. It's about how we can all contribute to creating more inclusive spaces at work, whether we're leading or working alongside of a transgender team member. By having these open discussions, we can bridge the gap between good intentions and real meaningful inclusion, making sure that everyone feels seen, valued, and respected. Let's welcome Lola. Well, welcome, Lola. We are so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Christine.
Absolutely. Anytime. And Lola, you said yes to embrace your true identity. Now, you've been open about your journey of self-discovery and transition. Can you share with us what it's been like to embrace that identity and how it's maybe felt over these last couple of years?
Oh, I'd be happy to. It's just such a hard thing to describe the feeling of coming out and being oneself, I should say. But it's absolutely liberating to do it. It's just so life affirming, I guess, for me, I should say. This is for me. This is strictly my own opinions. But on the other hand, it was absolutely nerve wracking when I first decided to do it. It took a lot of courage to make that leap. But now that I'm crossed that threshold, it's like there's no going back. This is it. This is my life now, and I'm relishing in it most of the time. It's not always easy, that's for sure.
I'm sure.
Been an emotional roller coaster, and every day feels a little different from the day past.
Oh, nice.
So it's but liberating is perhaps the one word that I would say about the initial coming out.
You talked about the analogy of the caterpillar and the butterfly.
Yes, exactly.
Share that with everyone. I really love that.
Well, I feel that, I live most of my life as a caterpillar, scurrying away, just kind of saying, one day, look out, world. You're going to see a big change one of these days, I'm not sure when. And then I went into my little cocoon, And boom, I'm out now. It's a butterfly. And I think it's hard for the other insects to realize I'm not the caterpillar anymore. Down inside, I still am.
Hmm.
I have a different appearance.
Yes. And even I think many people can relate to that feeling
Hmm.
just because sometimes we evolve in our career or we evolve in the person we believe to be. And sometimes our friends, even for example, a weight loss journey, when
Yeah.
you're very heavy and you lose a lot of weight, and
Hmm.
it's sometimes hard for your friends to come with you on that journey.
Sure.
So,
Also, what, like substance abuse is the same thing.
yes,
You had a certain friends when you were, let's say, addicted to
partying.
something, partying, and then when you stop, you kind of lose those friends, but then you gain new ones on the journey. On your
Yes. And you're
your life.
living your authentic life,
Yeah.
whether that is sobriety, weight loss, health,
Yes.
gender identification. So many people can empathize with that and relate to that. And that's what I really want this conversation to help us is
Hmm.
to have people who don't understand it
Yes.
find some ways to connect to it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. Now you were 57 when you made the decision to transition.
Yeah.
What motivated you to take this life-changing step at 57?
The major factor was time. I kind of realized that this is something that I had been hiding my entire life. Well, not I shouldn't say my entire life. Let's say from puberty, when
Okay.
became aware of my sexuality and my gender, and it was then that I realized I was different from the other boys in the neighborhood. Let's say, right?
Okay.
I mean, I could still relate to them, but I also had something inside of me that I knew wasn't normal to them. So I kept well hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that all my life. And when I got to a certain age, it became apparent that I would have to make a change. It was even I had got divorced at 48, and I'm still kicking myself to this day that I didn't make the transition move then. You know,
Right.
I was still very much afraid of what that would be. Because we don't really know until we're there. You can
Mm-hmm.
talk to 100 people and who have transitioned before, and it's a different story for everyone. So you don't know exactly what it's going to be like for you to make that move. So I waited until it almost seems like it's too late, but I did it anyway. I wanted to be authentic for at least some portion of my life. I just didn't want to keep hiding it away and pretending I was someone I wasn't.
Right. So going back to puberty, you feel like that's when it really became aware to you, anyways.
Yes.
Would you feel like at that time you felt like you were in the wrong body, that you were really inside a female, but you were born in a male's body? Is that the feeling?
Um, I don't know if I would describe it that way for me. I just felt that I just realized that I liked girls and I liked, being with girls. Also wanted to be like them. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I wanted to be with them, but I also wanted to be like them. And I realized that at around puberty because I would look at the girls, I just like look at the way they walk, and I would think to myself, I wish I could walk like that. Or I wish
Mhm.
I could wear a little school uniform like that to school because I went to Catholic school.
Okay.
So all the girls wore uniforms. I was like, I wish I could wear that to school.
Mhm.
And so I just knew then that these thoughts, and I was Catholic too. So I was
Right.
like, oh my goodness, I'm going to go to hell, you know?
Right.
So it was, yeah, I didn't feel like I was in the wrong body yet.
Okay.
I didn't become aware of that part yet. I just knew there was a part of me that wanted to be more feminine than
Mhm.
my body presented itself as.
You have legally changed your name to Lola Sophia, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, now this is kind of the fun part. How fun was choosing a new name for you, and how did you decide on that name?
Okay, so um, the name Lola wasn't my first choice.
Okay.
I wasn't really sure. I did like Sophia. I loved the name Sophia
Okay.
because I was a big Sophia Loren fan when I was younger.
Oh,
It was just the essence of womanhood to me. So I loved the name Sophia, and I thought that might be the one. But I thought, it just seems kind of long, Sophia. To
okay.
me, my dad's name was a two-syllable name, so I kind of wanted to stay two syllables.
Okay.
So I had a name kind of picked out, but I wasn't sure about it. It was a name I'd used when I would be like cruising the internet, let's say. And that name was Lacey. I thought Lacey was going to be, it might work, but it didn't sound like me. And I was hanging out with my daughter's mother-in-law. Well, we used to hang out all the time. We were very, very good friends. And I was sitting in the kitchen one day, she was making dinner, and we were talking, and she said, have you thought of a name? And I thought, you know what? I really can't. I have an idea, but I haven't really found anything that feels like me yet. And she said, well, I have a name for you. And I said, okay. And they're a very musical family. They love music.
Oh, okay.
And she said, Lola, I want to call you Lola. And I said, oh, like the song? She said, yeah, the song. And I said, oh, I love that song. Lola by the Kinks, Lola, Lola.
Yes.
And she says, no, not that song. She meant Copacabana.
Oh,
So she was like, her name was Lola.
Lola. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Lola, Lola. But anyway, I love the name. I love the name. And I credit my name choice to her
I
because
love it.
she was one that came up with it. And the minute she said it, it just kind of stopped with me. And I was like, that's kind of perfect for me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm also musical. And now that I see the name Lola, I see it all over the place now. It's kind of
It's in
I
your
think
Raz.
restaurants and storefronts and then there's quite a few movie characters called Lola too. So
I think it's perfect for you too. I love it.
thank you so much.
So let's talk about how your transition impacted your relationship. Speaking of your
Mhm.
daughter and your daughter's mother-in-law, how did you tell your family and friends, especially your daughters? Tell us a
Oh
little bit about that.
well, okay. Take a while. So I had decided in August of 2021, I decided to come out. Now, who I was going to tell I was coming out to was like, my goodness, who do I tell first,
Yeah, who was the first person?
And it actually was my daughter's mother-in-law, Anita.
Oh,
I had just come out of a long-term relationship with another woman. It was then I had decided that, enough with these relationships. It's time to come out and be myself. So we went out one that day for a couple of drinks, and we were at one of these street festivals, I think. And for some reason, when we were conversing, she once in a while she would say, you know, you can tell me anything you want. And I was like, okay. And then later in the evening, she would say again, if there's anything you want to tell me, I'm really good at keeping secrets. And I kept thinking to myself, what does she know? What is going on here? And finally, it was like it had gotten late. We were at the Korea karaoke bar, and she said to me again, she says, "You know what? I'm really good with secrets. You can tell me anything you like." And I said, "You know what? Enough. Here goes." I just started saying it. At the time, I wasn't really ready to say I was transgender. I'm
hmm
not even sure if I knew I was transgender then. But I did say I was gender fluid. I said, I'm gender fluid. I like to switch back between being in a male mode and a female mode, and just kind of like a cross dresser, right?
Hmm.
She was like, "Oh, that's great, I think that's amazing that you do that because it was kind of like a revelation. Now it was our little secret, So we had
Right.
kind of like this. It was a bond in our friendship. After I told her, I said, "You know what? I should probably tell my kids." So
How wonderful it is that you had somebody in your life that was so open, so open-minded and
yeah,
kind of felt that and kept giving you that invitation.
yes,
And then that started everything for you.
it sure did. I mean, I don't know if she just had a intuition for it or what.
Yeah.
Obviously, she saw something in me that not many other people did.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I was very lucky. I always feel I've been very lucky with the people I've always had in my life around me, even before transition,
Hmm.
I kind of, somehow I vetted them for this moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not intentionally, but most of
Hmm.
my friends that I had before are still with me now. So
Hmm.
I'm very fortunate
Nice.
that way.
So
So,
what about your daughters? How
okay.
did that
So
go?
I've always had a very good relationship with my girls, and they have a good relationship with me. We're always goofing around. And so I would go into the city with them. We'd go to some restaurants and have a couple of drinks and then, hang out for a while. And then I'd drive back home. So Kaylee and I live in the suburbs. So we drove in together and we met up with them and we went to some like a little tiki bar. And we were sitting having drinks. And the whole time I'm thinking, like I'm clutching onto the table, thinking, okay, this is my moment. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. And everybody was just having a really good time. And I kept thinking to myself, you're going to ruin this moment. You're going to ruin this good time by saying this. Everyone's going to be like, what the heck? So I just like bit my tongue. But when I was driving home, I started talking to Kaylee, my oldest. And we were just sitting in the car and I said to her, I was trying to think of a way to bring this up. I couldn't think of a way. But all of a sudden I said, Kaylee, I love you, right? And she said to me, yes, of course. And I said, but I love you unconditionally. Do you know what that means? And she said, yeah, that means that no matter what I do, you'll always love me. And I said, that's right. I'll always love you unconditionally. And I said, do you love me unconditionally? And she said, yeah, yeah, of course I love you unconditionally. I said, well, I have something I want to talk to you about. And I started to tell her, I said, and to me, it's a blur with the words that I said that came out of my
Yeah.
mouth. All I remember was she was so happy that she took off her seatbelt and started hugging me across I was driving and she's hugging me while I'm driving. I'm like, Kaylee, he was like so happy that I had told her this. I, and I was just taken aback.
Wow.
I had no expectations of that kind of reaction. So I was just like thrilled
Yes. I
that
can't even imagine how relieving that would feel.
oh my gosh, it was like a weight being lifted off. And then after that, I couldn't wait to tell people.
Right, right. Once you get that there, the most important people in your life's
Yes.
blessing, nobody else matters.
Yes. I was like, don't tell your sister. So I told them individually over the next few days. Like
Okay.
I would get them apart where I was just one on one with them.
Mhm.
Um, Lindsay was kind of like, oh, okay.
Nonchalant. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. Whatever you want to do. And then Heather surprised me because I told her and she said, oh, I've known for years.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, what? How could you have possibly known? What are you talking about? She says, remember when we had to switch laptops because your laptop wasn't working and you gave me mine and I gave you hers? Well, you didn't erase your search history.
Yikes.
So there was incriminating evidence on my search history that she kind of figured something wasn't right. Not I shouldn't say something wasn't right, but something,
Was
was
hidden.
right. So she had kind of like put two and two together, but she hadn't said a word to anyone. If she had
Mm,
just kept that in her mind for all those years, and when
yeah.
I came out to her, she was like, "Yeah, I knew that."
That that's so
It's
funny. We
crazy.
we think we hide things. We don't hide anything.
But that's funny because I always felt like I was telling the whole time. I always felt like I was showing my femininity. I was very self-conscious about that all through my life.
Mm. You were always super hilarious. So and you were a singer. So
Yeah.
have any of those feelings changed? Are you still this funny person? Are you still singing? Have any of those things changed?
I am still the exact same person I was before. I haven't changed personality wise. I haven't changed. I'm a little bit bitchier, maybe, but
That's
uh,
hilarious.
I, um, I would say I'm the same person. I love making people laugh, and I love to laugh. So I like to be around people with great sense of humor and sense
Mhm.
of humor. I've always been that way, and I've always been surrounded with music. So I still go out and sing karaoke,
Okay.
and do that stuff. The band thing has been, I kind of put that on the back burner
Okay.
because I just really don't have time for it. It's
Hmm.
such a time-consuming pursuit.
Now, one of the questions I was going to get to in a little bit was about you're taking estrogen, right?
Oh
You're taking
yes,
so did that change your voice?
unfortunately, no.
Oh, okay, not
No.
at all.
Yeah, the estrogen can change a lot of things. So the two things it will definitely not change is your voice,
It,
which
it
I've always,
doesn't change your voice.
but I'm trying to train my voice to sound more feminine. I don't know if it does or not. I always feel like it doesn't, but some people have told me no, it sounds okay. I would like it to be higher. And
Mm,
sometimes when I talk to people I don't know, I will use a higher register. But when I'm around company I do know, I tend to settle into my
yeah.
pre-transition voice, but the
Hmm.
estrogen won't help. You can get your tracheotomy, your trach shaved, and that
Oh.
sometimes help. But it's really mostly voice coaching that you have to do, and you have to just kind of train yourself. I've been neglecting that because I feel very self-conscious, like I'm using a fake voice, or
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I sound like Mickey Mouse. Hi, ladies, how's it going over here?
Right,
So
right,
I'm very self-conscious about it. I don't want to sound like an idiot, and I want to be natural. I want
right.
to be natural. So that's a conflict with me internally. It's my self-consciousness that kind of is holding me back from making that change. But I think gradually over time it will start to become sound more feminine. I think
Hmm.
I have transgender women friends who just sound like girls to me, and
Okay.
I just hate them. No, I,
So you also get more jealousy with estrogen.
just a smidge.
Just a smidge. It's so cute. Well, you know what? One of the things I was really curious about is what do your daughters call you now?
They still call me dad.
They do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I'm happy with that. That's okay because
Mm.
to me, it would be ridiculous for them to call me mom. But the great thing about my kids is their acceptance right away
Mm.
to my lifestyle now is they say dad, but then they'll be gender conforming after that. They'll say something like, did you hear what dad said? She said, blah, 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 blah. So they use dad and she and
With
her in combination. So it's even though it's dad is like a male name, to them it's just like a nickname. So they were calling me dad. And then one day we were at an event. I think it was Lindsay's baby shower. She was introducing me to her boyfriend's parents and said, this is my dad, Lola. And
yeah.
I don't know. It kind of hit me the wrong way. It was like a
Mm.
kind of like my bubble was burst, because I was enjoying this day.
Yes.
Dress. I thought I was wearing a nice dress. I thought I looked good, and I just felt probably more feminine than I've felt in a long time.
Uh-huh.
When she said, "This is my dad," to these strangers, it just felt weird, very weird to me. So, like the next couple of days, asked all three of them, if in public like that, can you call me Lola, please? Because it causes like dysphoria, you know? It's like,
Mm.
oh, I don't want to be, I'm your dad. I love being your dad. I never want to take that away. I just don't want to be called that in this situation.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they understood that. So now if we're out in public, if we're in a restaurant or something, they'll say, "Hey Lola, come over here," something like that. So
Yeah.
they
I love that.
I love my girls, I love my daughters so much that, you know, they're just they're just so supportive and loving. I don't know really what I would have done without them.
Yes, it's so wonderful. Now, you're also a grandmother.
Yeah.
So what does the baby call you?
Months before the baby was born, we were talking about that, but
Mm.
especially with my daughter Lindsay, and she's like, "You should be Nana,"
Oh, I
which
like
is
that.
which is what they called their grandmother, my mom.
Oh,
That's what I called my grandmother. Was Nana. It's an Italian term.
uh-huh.
I was like, Nana, I don't know. Nana to me reminds me of like a woman in a black dress with a little kerchief over her heads, her whiskers coming up. No offense to all the Nanas out there, sorry.
Yes.
I was like, I don't really feel it. But once the baby was born and I was holding her, I'm like, Nana's here. Here's Nana.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So I like the name now, and Lindsay's happy. She's like, "See, I told you you're Nana," and so it.
Yeah.
I'm Nana for now. We'll see how it goes.
I love that. Well, let's talk about transitioning in the workplace,
Oh,
especially as a machinist. You are a machinist. This is a very male-dominated field. So that can be incredibly challenging going through everything that you did in that environment. So can you tell us a little bit about how you came out at work and, how did that work?
okay. Yeah, that was a very intimidating situation for me. After I had decided to come out, and I kept it very well hidden at work. So what I was doing when I first came out, like I said, I was gender fluid. So I would go to work, jeans and a t-shirt, do my job, and then come home. When I come home, I'd take the jeans off, and I would either put on more feminine clothing or go shopping or whatever, and just try to be as feminine as possible for those 3 or 4 hours that I had,
Hmm.
and then next day do the same thing again and just kind of repeat, repeat, repeat. To me, the best time of the week was the weekend because I had Saturday and Sunday off to just be Lola, right?
Hmm.
So I'd paint my nails. I mean, I wear some makeup and put on some earrings and things like that. I didn't look anything like a like like I do now, or even remotely feminine at the time because I wasn't taking any hormones or anything. But
Okay.
I just wanted to feel that way.
Hmm.
And Sunday night came, and it was time to put all the clothes away and take the nail polish off and go back to being that guy. I realized I was getting so depressed, and I'd be so depressed at work. It got to the point where I couldn't bear it. So I just
Oh.
started leaving the nail polish on, and I wasn't wearing any makeup or anything. But two of my ears were pierced already, so I started wearing two earrings, and I had so two earrings and then nail polish. And guys started to notice that. They were like, "Oh, what's going on there?"
Yeah.
No one really questioned me about it. But then one day, this was after I think I had decided to transition. I was not on hormones yet. I wasn't on HRT yet, but I had made the decision that this is what I was going to do. I was already planning on making calls to a doctor uh, to get on hormones. I was at work one day. I had already decided I'm going to transition. I was transgender, and I'm going to transition. Well, the HR manager, she used to go around the show. She still does. Every 2 weeks you get paid, and she would have these paycheck stubs. It was just like a dummy stub that just told you what you were
Right.
told it was. It didn't actually have to check. But she would walk around the shop and hand them all out. And so she would come to me And I'm going to use my dead name now.
Okay.
uh, Dead.
But you're
Yeah,
saying dead name.
it's a
So in
dead.
your mind, that person's now dead.
Yes, that name
Okay.
is dead. The only one who uses it, the only one who I let use it still is my mom,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
but she loves Lola. So I mean, she
Cute.
tells me, I love Lola, but I just keep forgetting. And I said, it's okay, mom. You're
That's so
89
sweet.
years old. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Huh. How sweet of her to be so open and try.
Yes. Yes, she
Hmm.
does. She's very open. I mean, she was when I told her, she was really happy for me.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
Now, you
that's
don't have to use your dead name if that makes you uncomfortable, but yeah, I
no, no.
want you to tell them the story though.
So my dead name is Elmo, and it's a weird name to grow up with in the first place. Sometimes I would be very self-conscious of my name,
Hmm.
but she would always go around the shop, and she would come to me every day, every 2 weeks. She would say, "Here you go, Mr. Elmo," right? And that's how she would address me. "Here you go, Mr. Elmo." And one day it just felt so wrong to me to hear that. After she was giving out the checks, I went to her office and I said, "I need to talk to you about something that's happening in my life." And we sat down and I started to tell her, "I'm a transgender woman and I plan on transitioning. And when you call me Mr. Elmo, it really hurts me inside. It's hard to describe how I feel inside. It's like getting punched in the stomach."
Hmm.
And she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." And I said, "Yes, you didn't know because I didn't tell you. I'm telling you now." I mean, I'm not upset with you because it's my own fault. I never let you know. It's not
Hmm.
like you're doing it on purpose. And she said, "Well, you should go tell, the boss and the manager and your managers." And that was the worst part, was having to tell my coworkers, these men, that I'm going to be transitioning from male to female. And I could see them looking at me like, what does that even mean,
Yes.
Because I don't think anyone had the real like conception of what that meant. I think my supervisor asked me like, "What are you going to wear to work?"
Right. See,
And
there's so many questions, and that's why I love having this conversation because right now, if someone was bringing on the very first transgender person to their team, they wouldn't know what can I ask? What can, how do
yeah,
I make? And because when we don't understand something, we tend to ignore it. And that's what I don't want to happen.
yeah, absolutely. I'm all about putting my information out there. If someone asks me, I answer any question as long as
Hmm.
it's not too personal. And if it's too
Hmm.
personal, I'll let that person know.
Hmm.
Um, but I am all about putting that information out there so there's no misunderstanding, so there's no guessing, or whispers behind my back. Who knows what they might be saying about me when I'm not there. But I think most of the guys are very understanding of the
Good.
situation, and a lot of the guys have accepted it. I also feel there's some who don't accept my lifestyle. I can kind of tell, like the guys who don't really greet me or acknowledge me or say my name. That's
Hmm.
also a good indicator if someone is not really accepting of me if they don't say my new name, Lola.
Hmm.
But they don't. No one dead names me anymore. No one calls me by my old name, which is now.
Okay.
But it did take a while to get that. Did
Hmm.
take a while to get there. I would always correct them, because it's a habit. When I've been working there for 10 years, and
Yes,
it's the same for you, probably.
it is so hard. Like
Yeah.
I mentioned in the introduction that I've known you for 20 years, and still when I said today I used your dead name when I was talking to my honey bunny. I was like, oh, I get to talk to, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, so I understand, and but again, because we're friends, I can have this conversation. But believe you me, I've been having these thoughts and questions for so long, but I haven't known anybody to
Yeah.
say, hey, can I ask you some questions? And
Hmm.
that's why when you agreed to do this, I'm like, I know there's other people that would love to hear from you.
I'm sure there are. Yeah, I'm sure that we're an enigma to a lot of people. We're not. I think some people are intimidated to come up and ask in case they
Mhm.
ask the wrong thing that they'll get
Mhm.
in trouble. But I encourage it. I think most of my friends that are trans encourage that also.
Good.
Uh, I've not really met anyone who is like, don't talk to me at all about it. This is my life. I'm living my life. You just have to accept it.
Right.
And I want people to accept me, but I also want people to try and understand my lifestyle a little bit. It's almost impossible to describe what it feels like
Mhm.
inside on a daily basis. But I try to give them as much an idea as possible of what it's like,
Mhm.
or what it was like growing up with it and going through life as just someone living inside you that's trying to break free, and
Yes.
so it's really hard to convey that emotion. But
Mhm.
I try. I'm open to people asking me questions. I encourage it. I always say you can ask me anything just as long as it's not doesn't cross the line.
For the leaders out there right now that are listening, or someone who might have a colleague that's coming on board, or has been a team member for a while and is transitioning,
Yes.
do you have any tips for what a leader could do to help the team embrace this new team member that they might not understand? Do you have any thoughts? And you're not, the expert in this and whatnot. I
Yeah.
understand that, but coming from someone who's gone through it, what would you have liked to have seen, or what could have helped you more?
Um. I think if I had been perhaps approached by people more, just to say, I heard this. Can you just tell me a little bit more about it so I understand it a little bit better? I would have appreciated that.
Mhm.
I think a lot of guys in where I was kind of said, okay, that's the situation, and then kind of went off to the corner and then discuss it among themselves.
Hmm.
So they're getting mixed information and misinformation, let's say.
Right. Would
And
you have liked your leader to have done something?
perhaps might have helped to like have like a
Bridge.
group meeting
Right.
and just say, hey, this was your coworker Elmo, right?
And this is
But
our new team
but
member.
this is a team member, and she or he identifies as he, her, she, him. If it's a new person, if it's someone who's coming out in work already, then it's kind of a different situation. Then you kind of have to re-educate your coworkers. If it's a new person, you just have to say, let's say this is Susan, and I would talk to Susan first and say,
Mhm.
how do you want me to announce you? What is your new name? What's your pronouns? And do you want me to tell people that you're transgender or not?
Hmm.
Because by you just saying, this is Susan, she's transgender, well, maybe she doesn't want everyone to know right away that she's transgender. A lot of people are very, I don't know, sensitive to that information.
Okay.
I know I don't pass as a female. I know I don't look like a woman. And I probably never will, no matter how much plastic surgery I have done. I just don't have the bone structure for it. I don't have the body shape for it. But some people, especially young transgender women and men who start young, are almost undiscernible that they
Right.
were or either ever male or female. They just look. The transition just takes really a great effect with them because they're younger.
Hmm.
So sometimes they don't want to be outed as transgender.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? So so that's something you have to discuss with them first before you announce them. Let's say if you were to announce them in a group meeting and say, this is Susan, our new, blah, blah. But,
Hmm.
and then you could just say that. You don't actually have to say anything else.
Anything.
No.
Right.
And
Right.
I always tell people, everybody genderizes things. nowadays. Like I used to hold the door open, right, for someone, and it would say, "Thank you, sir," you know, or "Thank you, ma'am," or "How can I help you, sir? Are you finished with this? Have you finished with this plate, sir?" Everywhere you go, right?
Yes.
Or "Thank you, sir," and you're well. And when they do it to me, if they misgender me, which hasn't happened actually, I've been lucky; it hasn't happened in a while.
Hmm.
Um, the only time I get misgendered now is usually when I'm on the phone because of my voice.
Oh, okay.
But when people see me, they always say "ma'am" when they'll say "she" or "her," and I'm kind of lucky that way.
Yeah.
Um, but in the past, early in my transition, they would say, you know, "Can I get you something, sir?" And I was always be like, "Well, why do you have to say "sir," or why do you have to say "ma'am"? Can you just say, "Can I get you something?"
Well, that is definitely me.
Uh-huh.
And I struggled with that a few times where I've added a ma'am or a sir or whatnot. I'm gonna, maybe, oh gosh, I think I just made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then I'm just beside myself. I think that's how we, especially Gen X, we're taught. We say ma'am and sir and miss
To be
and
polite, right?
yes,
Yes.
exactly. That's a hard thing to break. Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like a sneeze, When people sneeze,
Mm-hmm.
people say bless you. They're not always sure why they're saying it. It just happens that way. It's just a reflex. I always tell people if you're not sure, if you are questioning the gender of this person in front of you, don't say anything
Yes.
or call them by their name.
Their
You
name.
know
If
what I
you can get
mean?
their name tag or
If
name,
you,
ask them their
or you
name.
ask them their name and then use that
Hmm.
instead of trying to question if it's a she or a he or whatever,
Yes.
or a they. I should include non-binary people in this equation also because there's a growing number of non-binary people now, and even I sometimes have a hard time discerning what you want me to call you because
And then even asking, because if you ask and they feel like it should be obvious,
Mhm.
then you're just like, oh crap, I just made,
Well,
now I've insulted them in the wrong way. And that's why I think a lot of people just stay away from it because they're afraid.
absolutely, but
Yeah.
sometimes just asking the person can
Yes.
just solve that problem automatically. You have to be careful where you tread, but I don't think people are, if you don't know them, if you don't really know them and you misgender them, that's an allowance, and they'll,
Right.
they'll correct you right away. If you misgender a transgender woman, she'll probably say, if you say, he or him, they'll correct you right away. They should
Mhm.
correct you right away. I know I do. I was in the dentist recently, and the hygienist, there was a new dentist, and the hygienist was working on me, and she said something to her assistant. I thought she said he, and I was
Oh.
like, "It's he," and
I
all,
could see it right
and
now.
all this stuff in this mouth, in my mouth. I'm like, "It's she." She's like, "Sorry,
Sorry.
what did you say?" I said, "She." You said he, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry,"
Oh,
but
that's
she
so
did.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but that's good. I think you just need to do that. That helps you and your identity and it helps other people. And especially when you do it in a nice way, people go, "Oh, it's okay to make a mistake.
yeah,
I made a mistake and now I'm gonna, it takes practice. So just I think in summary of the work question, that if you are transitioning, have a conversation with your leader and let them know how you would
yeah.
like to go about it. If you are a leader, when that person comes to tell you, say, how can I help this transition? Would you say that that is not make any suggestions, just say, how can I help you make this transition?
Yes. Yes, you want to make sure it's not disruptive to your workplace, environment, because
Mhm.
once you start making it disruptive, then you become the problem, right?
Right.
You're just trying to live life, but now you're causing problems because your coworkers aren't comfortable or whatever. But if you
Mhm.
can put that out there early and just let them know, and don't try and force it on anyone right away,
Right.
just kind of for me, I did it very gradually. I just kind of started making changes,
Yes.
coloring my hair and so now I wake up. a little bit early, and I put makeup, a little bit of makeup on, not too much because there's no point. And because I work in a machine shop, and I just t-shirt again, but more feminine jeans and more feminine t-shirt, just so I can feel normal. My workplace is difficult because it actually does cause me a certain level of dysmorphia. I feel like when I walk across that threshold into my workplace, I feel like I go back to Elmo mode. Like
Oh,
I lose my new identity, and I start going back to my old. So it's work for me is can be very difficult at times, emotionally and psychologically.
yeah. Have you thought about changing jobs because of
Uh,
it?
I have, yes, I have. I mean,
Mm.
I envy trans women who are in office jobs. One of my best friends is in education, and she gets to dress up cute every day,
Ah,
and she's also in an environment which is around a lot of women, so it's a more feminine environment, and I miss that because when I'm in work, there's two women at work there, and I don't see them because they're in the office.
yeah.
So when I do get a chance to talk to them, I kind of enjoy that. But yeah, I feel very lonely at work sometimes, and I feel kind of displaced on a certain level. But as far as finding another job, I don't know what I could do because
Mhm.
unless I was to move to sales or something, I'm not really
Mm.
100% comfortable with that either.
Okay, well, let's get to some of that stuff that you might not want to talk about, and you just say if you don't. So, gender affirming surgeries and hormone treatments are often misunderstood. Are you
Uh-huh.
comfortable sharing any of the experiences that you've experienced so
Yeah.
far
Yes,
and
I am.
want to
Yeah.
do more?
Yeah, so right now I'm just on hormones, HRT, hormone replacement therapy is
Oh,
called. For transgender women, what we usually do, not everyone, but we start taking estrogen and we start taking a testosterone blocker. Our body produces testosterone regardless, but we take a little medication that helps to flush it out. So we take that to stem the testosterone, and then we take estrogen to change our body shape. And
oh,
yeah, the estrogen is like a magic a magic hormone, to be honest with you. The changes that it can bring about are kind of mind blowing sometimes to me.
mm,
I should be talking about trans youth right now, trans kids. If you can recognize that you're trans at a very young age, I'm talking even pre-puberty. If you can start taking the hormones at an early age, the changes in your body are noticeable and your
mm,
body tends to respond better to it. That's why I'm always envious of like 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds that start transitioning. I
mm,
transitioned at 58, so it takes longer for my body and it's harder for my body to absorb the estrogen. When you do it at a young age, your body starts to change rapidly, and what happens is your body fat, like a male, if you look at a man's body and a woman's body, it's a different shape. But it really,
mhm.
I mean, some of it's bone structure, and also it's fat placement too.
Yes.
So I started taking this estrogen, and I noticed that I can see it in my thighs and I can see it in my butt. But what also happened was my hips rolled back.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of realized this one day. I was getting these really bad pains in my buttocks and my lower legs, and I'm like, "What is going on?" It felt like a growing pain almost. And what it was
Oh.
doing was my hips were moving back. So I kind of and now I have an arch in my back when I stand. And then my butt kind of sticks out a little bit in the back.
So let me ask, are you starting to second guess this situation?
No, I love it. I love it.
Oh, good, good.
I want
I'm just
more.
teasing.
I want more estrogen.
Good for you.
And
Good for
well,
you.
and of course, breast development is another thing. For me, it's very slow breast development, but in younger trans women, it comes quicker. Those are the two things that you can take.
Okay.
I also take an additional third hormone called progesterone, which is supposed to help with breast development, but it doesn't seem to be working for me at all.
Hey, friends, I hope you're enjoying this week's powerful episode on transformation and courage. We have much more to get to, and we'll do that next week in part 2. Remember, each journey is unique, and creating inclusive environments starts with understanding and empathy. Stay tuned for part 2 next week, and we'll dive deeper into important topics like surgery, transgender travel. Plus, we'll explore transitioning at work and practical steps to foster inclusivity for all. You won't want to miss these essential insights. See you then.
That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cooler goal.